because they shut the microphone off. And so I have like over 3 hours of a live stream where they were talking about all these things and they shut the microphone off. But let me just quickly tell you what they were admitting. They said this was their form of street theater, this sound system. They said that it's not in everyone's apartment. It's definitely in mine. So they admit that. They said that this is being picked up this news story is being picked up all over the world. I don't know if that's true. When I was able to, I started talking about why this is different. A lot of what they did to me is in writing. We have the Alzheimer's letter. We have the book, the Northbury Papers with the Shamiga character. My professor wrote it and used my name and likeness. And I was able to show the printout from Fordham that was actually my professor. We had the elementary school made a lot of invitations over the years for me to come to different occasions. The college ex-boyfriend, I can't remember whether he was going to turn 24 or 25 when I was 18. So he was a lot older than me, and he knew that this wasn't going to be a relationship, but he did write in a letter that he couldn't picture himself on the front porch looking at his grandchildren without anyone but me by his side, or, along those lines, that he expected to marry me. So the people involved, I have a history of them writing things to me. I got the email to recruit me for Lacoste. The Alzheimer's letters was inviting me based on my age, based on me living in Co-op City, and something else. So for them to say I was unwanted is impossible. I wasn't a social awkward person either. The other thing is they expected me to be so polished. I'm a Bronx native. I'm a New York native. We don't have hair and makeup. We look the way we look. We're not overly polished. We don't speak a certain way. I'm Gen X. The women we grew up with, and I'm talking about it as women because that's who, when you're a girl, you kind of look to, were the same. They used profanity. They were rough. They were tough. And that's part of what I'm saying. They don't want me to be the rough, tough person who fights back. What I'm showing you is me being abused. They thought I would not just report it to the police, but live stream and put it out there on the internet. They're like, why is she all over the internet? I have freedom of speech, and they're trying to stop me from having freedom of speech. The biggest thing I wanted to say is that my mother and I realized that we were being watched and listened to. We went outside and people would show up to kind of watch us and listen to us to see what we were talking about, as though we had no freedom of speech. So that's when I realized that this wasn't about catching me on a hot mic. This was about keeping me from talking, keeping me quiet. And I had to go on the internet so I wouldn't be kept quiet. They're not even putting out some of my videos because they said they have to run it past somebody. Like, since when? Since when in the United States do we have to run what we say past people who are foreign-born people? And that's another big thing about this. Two of the people I mentioned, one is foreign-born, one whose family is involved, they were foreign-born. One foreign-born from Germany, one foreign-born from Cuba. Two countries that are familiar with this whole watching people system. So someone called it Zersetang or something, or the Stasi. Meaning you're not supposed to say this. You're not supposed to say that. I'm an American. That would never occur to me or people around me. They keep lying about that. They don't know what they're talking about. As you guys can see, I've proven there was nothing wrong with the book. There was no picture of children. That picture that they insisted was in some way bad is not. There was another issue that I put up proof about. So what happened is, once you no longer want to be with these type of people, they have to watch you because what if you say this? What if you say that? So they wanted to train me to start to think that way. And someone said I used to sit quiet, meaning like a good person does, like sits quiet until she's spoken to or spoken about. Again, that's something I don't want to become. And I don't want them to put this out there as a positive thing for young people. The other point about that is that I feel that my generation, Gen X, was the last generation to have that, the grandparents who raised us to watch out, not just for ourselves, but watch out for each other, where If someone says don't talk, then you talk and you tell. They said stranger danger. It's more than stranger danger. They just said stranger danger. It's more than stranger danger. It's, did something go wrong in school? Like they used to do this to us. Like, what? Something about that situation didn't seem right. What is that about? And they would ask us as kids. So when they expected me to turn into some secretive little kids, they used to say, don't tell your mother. Of course I told my mother. That's part of this. I got to put this out there. The people they involved were the people who were like, don't tell your mother. Of course I told my mother. If anyone, and I hope I'm talking to Gen X out there because you guys get it. If anyone tells your children not to tell you, that's a problem. And it will always be a problem. I didn't know it at the time that it would never not be a problem, that these people would always be looking for me, trying to convince me that I'm doing the wrong thing and I should listen to them because they have some sort of knowledge. And when I'm pointing out to them, and they know this for a fact, they always have problems. They always have issues. They go into programs where there are issues because of them. I should not be following them. I should be following the people who raised me and taught me, don't keep secrets from us. So part of that is if you have a relationship with people in your life and they tell you it's okay to come to us. If something goes wrong, don't be ashamed. These people have been using shame and blame on me this whole time. That's what this program is. They call it street theater. I call it shame and blame. Because when there's an issue, they're the first ones to shame their victims and blame them. Well, you did this wrong. You did that wrong. Thankfully, the people who raised me told me there's nothing you can do that's so bad that you can't come to me and tell me. The last thing I want to say before I end this, I got 3 hours of silence now, is something else they said about me. They said so many lies about me that when I'm listening, I'm like, they just said, doesn't that sound narcissistic? Because they don't like the words I, me, me, when you talk about yourself that way, because that separates me from them. When they were pretending to be me, they had this whole thing for years where they would answer as as though I'm answering. They would pretend to be me. Well, I can't be me and and they're being me at the same time. So one of us could not be me. So I was the one who was supposed to sit back and just let them keep recording all this. So that was how this was supposed to work. They put all this sound into my apartment to drown me out, and they were just going to pretend to be me, pretend to know what I was thinking, and try to predict and write scripts based on what I would say. So that was another part of this scam. There was something else. Like I said, when I started talking on the live stream, that I know I put the mic on. That's part of this. It's just drive you nuts. You remember doing something and then you're like, well, I know I did that. Why isn't it that? Because they can switch it. So they just said the reason it matters how I come across is because people would blame it all on them. But they have to see that in the privacy of my own home, and if I'm on the internet talking about these things, then I'm partially to blame. No, I'm not. The whole list of things that I gave you that you've done in writing wrong is the reason for this. As a victim, I don't have to go back in time 30 years, 20-something years, 10 years, but I did, and I've still proven that I was not to blame for this. And that's directed to them. They cannot excuse their bad behavior by saying, well, we victimized her because she's kind of bad. And when I prove, no, I'm not. I'm bad. Well, she speaks like she's bad. No, I don't speak like I'm bad. If you're familiar with New York, almost everyone sounds this way. No, you're not supposed to. That's how it is. This is explaining how this would work. If these people hadn't done the wrong thing, they would never have even worried about me talking to people. It's doing the wrong thing, wanting to make sure nobody knows that Shamiga is my real name, They knew me as that. The people who don't know me that they involved in this would have just hidden the truth because they had the control, the power to shut off mics, shut my phone off, shut off my videos, cut me off mid-sentence. They have the control and the power to do that. So this, me being on the internet, using my American right of freedom of speech, threatens them. It's a threat to their control and their power. And they did admit that. They said that the people who normally would listen to them are now not listening to them because they realize they don't have to be part of this. They just said they're not allowed to live this way with me here. So that's why they have to do this, and they want me to leave so they can probably do this to me someplace else, meaning move me from a place where I'm comfortable, where I've been now over 28 years, to someplace else where I would be more vulnerable. So they said that little trick would have left them reeling for years. I don't know what they're referring to, but the whole issue becomes, for some reason, they thought I would be the one for this and not say anything. Again, that wasn't how I was raised. They said then that means we were. And that's part of this. They don't want to see that we're not together. If just because something happens to me doesn't mean it happened to them, or just because I experienced something doesn't. It's not like every little thing has to match up. Like, oh, if she had this happen, then it must have happened to me. Or if this is with separate people. And this is why I'm saying this is some weird sort of situation that's going on here. And it's illegal. It's not just a crime. The technology they're using made me sick. That was the other thing I'm saying. They're criticizing the way I speak, but they know that this is part of the sickness they've caused in me. I have a video coming up where I let you listen to a 2014 meditation video and you hear my speech. It's not hard for me to speak. I was able to speak clearly, which goes against their lie that in 2013, maybe I was having the same issue and that there was something wrong with my ability to speak. No, that's a lie. So what you hear in my voice now is the result of all the surveillance 24/7 and what they did in order to do all this. This is the change you're hearing in my voice. You're not hearing a change in my voice back in 2014. You'll hear it clearly. My voice, I was having any problems. So when they're like, well, they said something, I don't know what they just said. But the whole point becomes even when they're saying the way I speak, they're criticizing it. They caused it. They caused the issue with my speech. And that was the other thing. Oh, I would look so, nice, like a nice person. And if I'm tough, then that wasn't right. Well, then you wouldn't be with a New York person, a native New Yorker. I've shown you guys pictures of myself through the years. And if I don't think I look particularly, quote unquote, nice. I really didn't. I just look like a regular New Yorker. And they want me to be, quote unquote, nice to them after doing this to me. Nah, they will never get that opportunity. My voice is going. But the whole point becomes, my issue with this is that they don't want this out there. They don't want the fact that they have the technology to do this out there. I don't know what else they said. So I want to keep putting it out there that this technology does exist. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to mention. They've tricked a lot of victims. When I was first going through this and I didn't know how they were able to see me, like if I raised my hand, they knew I was raising my hand. If I scratched my nose, they would know I'm scratching my nose. So I was on Twitter and people said, no, they see through your own eyes. So they convinced people that their own eyeballs were a problem. cannot be any more evil to convince people that your eyeballs is telling them stuff. Complete evil. So I'm asking anybody else who knows about this to explain it. I've done it before. There are other people explaining how this works. We don't want people thinking their eyeballs are helping gang stalkers see them. It's not being done that way. And it's just for them to do that to people is so horrible that I don't know how they live with themselves. The people, they're like talking through the walls and putting this hissing sound to make it so miserable that I just up and leave. They wouldn't care if I become homeless. And then once I'm homeless, they'll go right there. It would never end. It's supposed to keep pushing you from one place to another until you end up with them. So I think that was pretty much what I said at the end of the other video that wasn't recorded. But it's a program. It is a real program. It's not run by people who are mentally stable enough to make it make sense, because a program where you put sounds in people's apartments and nonstop talking and lies about the person would just make the person upset. There would be nothing helpful. That was the last thing that they mentioned in the video that didn't get recorded, was that this was supposed to be the elementary schoolmate's rehabilitation, that she's in prison and she was supposed to go over these things. That's not how rehabilitation works. She would have called the police, or whoever's running the prison would have called the police and done this the right way. This is not a rehabilitation program. This is a crazy making program. It's a program meant to drive the victim mentally ill, or at least look mentally ill. And they said they accomplished that much with me because I'm all over the internet talking like this. So they've been able to accomplish that. And that's part of what I'm saying. This was the chance I took. When I first came online with this, which I wasn't online this way before, and they admit that, and meaning showing my face and talking and so forth, I took the chance of looking like a mentally ill person. Like, how is this even possible? And then once I showed you guys all the stuff in writing that shows these are people who always tried to be around me. I wasn't seen as someone, they said I seemed like I was on the spectrum of autism. No, I wasn't. I wasn't someone people didn't want around, which is something else they tried to say. No, I was wanted around, and I've been invited and recruited and all these other things. So when they're now trying to put it together to rewrite history, that is part of this, where it's supposed to be something where you lose your memory. The fact that I have 3 hours of no microphone is supposed to be an issue with my memory. Well, how could I not have remembered to press record? And this is part of it. If we're going to talk about, I'm going to do a new series. I have a few series coming up, but I'm going to do a new series of every single way this could be used to make someone seem like they have Alzheimer's. So I already showed you guys how it can make me seem mentally ill. But every single situation that could make someone seem like they have Alzheimer's. There are times when this hissing sound is so loud, especially loud in my bedroom. I've let you guys hear it in other rooms, but it's so loud in my bedroom that I can't even hear other things going on around me. And I would wake up just like frustrated. And at one point I talked about that. I just would wake up so frustrated. And then the talking was meant to confuse me. Like, maybe it did happen, maybe it didn't happen. They said, here's how they think. They're doing the wrong thing, but I'm sneaky and being quote unquote slick because I let them do the wrong thing. And then I put up that proof that it's wrong afterwards. That to them is slick. Not this program, not this system where they can lie on people, put sounds into the apartment, make it sound like the person is hearing voices. I told you guys I won't even say I'm hearing voices because it's talking out loud. But they think I'm the slick one. This whole scam is pretty slick. So I'm saying the people who created this scam are pretty slick themselves. So I'm going to end this video. I'll do more videos later. Thank you for listening.